Over the past 6 years, Business Studies Head of Department Jill Wright has overseen a 300% rise in GCSE attainment, from 28% A to C to an impressive 85% A to C. She believes that linking her subject to real-life situations is a big factor in her department's success.
Senior management are very dynamic, and the head has supported me in my ideas of how I wanted to take the department forward. So we've moved from a department that offered 1 or 2 subjects to a department that really has a major impact on teaching and learning in the school and achievement.
This programme looks at how Key Stage 4 pupils at Brighouse High School in West Yorkshire learn some of the fundamentals of business life through a game about the price of cakes. It's a model which introduces the ideas of cost types, revenue, profit and price setting, abstract concepts which can be difficult for pupils to engage with using traditional methods.
Good afternoon, everybody.
Jill needs only a trip to the supermarket and a competitive game with a tasty prize to turn the theories into practice. It's a model which seems to have proved itself to be highly effective and replicable by other teachers. To help you do this, you can find detailed rules for the game, together with comprehensive lesson plans, on the Teachers TV website.
The aim of the game is for students to gain an understanding of how to actually run a business in practical terms, but specifically looking at the financial aspect. So I use the game to introduce the concept of fixed costs and variable costs, how you calculate sales revenue and how profit is calculated.
And to gain an outside view on Jill's approach, we've invited 2 experts to observe and comment on today's lesson. Duncan Cullimore, Chief Executive of the Economics and Business Education Association, and David Hall, Senior Lecturer in Education at Manchester University and best-selling writer of texts for both pre- and post-16 business studies courses.
What's this? Right, triple chocolate gatto. At the start of the lesson, my main aim really is to grab their attention. And I say to the group that there'll be 4 or 5 companies competing against each other, and this is what they're going to be making, so that they've actually got a visual view of what the product is. I also tell them that the team that actually win the game that we're going to play will actually have the opportunity of eating the cake at the end of the lesson, so it's a little bit of motivation in there.
I really liked where she got the box out and they got the cake out and just sort of, perched it on the end of her fingers and just sort of said, well, here it is. The visual elements of the learning were there for those children that's particularly important to.
And every crate that you produce actually costs you £1,000. So we've got variable costs and we've got fixed costs. Those are all the costs involved in actually running our business.
And that interactive whiteboard constantly there, so to support the pupils, they can, if they're not particularly auditory in that context, they can look up, have a look at it, read it. Those that perhaps are slower processors of information have got it there to have a look at. And again, that fits in with the pace, doesn't it?
How are we actually going to total it all up? Well, all we have to do is add all our costs together to get our total costs. So when you start to play the game, this is one of the things you're going to have to do. You've got to calculate and work out your total costs.
You get the sense of a teacher who's really got a sense of the kind of language of business, of the terminology, of the concepts that the students need to acquire while they're doing this lesson.
She's referring to terminology, but it's very spare, isn't it? There's nothing there that she doesn't need to say.
If you charge £3 and you sold 10 items, you're going to make £30. Okay? Is that our profit?
They won't have actually come across any of the terminology before, and we will have done very little work on the financial aspects of running a business. And for many students, it's a part of the course that they worry about because, I don't like maths and, I'm not going to be any good at it. So I really think it's a great way of introducing what to some might be a bit of a challenging topic, but introducing it in a fun way.
So when I agree to buy these crates of cakes off you, I'm going to be giving you sales revenue. That's what the term actually means.
She began by explaining what sales revenue was, didn't mention sales revenue, but she had the interactive whiteboard with sales revenue up there, and then gradually led into an explanation of sales revenue. And again, it's pacey, very direct, very sharp.
you're going to have to decide how many crates you're actually going to produce and also how much you're going to charge for each crate. Now, I am going to buy a maximum of 8 crates, and you also know that I'm going to buy at least 2. Now, how many I buy is going to be based on your price compared to the other group's prices in the room.
I normally find when I'm explaining the game that the students will sort of look at me a little bit blankly, but actually when the students start to play the game, they very quickly cotton on to how it actually works. But I do think it's important for them to have that explanation before they actually start playing the game.
And Jamie.
Following her short opening explanation, Jill carefully divides the class into 4 groups.
Taylor and Lucy. And over in the other corner, Danny.
I don't give them a choice about who they work with. I tend to mix them up so that I've got a mixture of people who I know will sort of lead the group forward, somebody that's hopefully, you know, reasonable at maths, so that they're mixed ability groups.
It's very interesting the way that she's choosing the children, because in a game like this, it does require a certain ability to actually make decisions and to work in teams. You could end up with some groups that might not actually work together well. She's chosen them and she's probably moved a few around so that they'll work to the optimum level. And I think she's done that with good reason.
Remember, this is a practice go, so if you make the wrong decisions, it won't matter.
I like to have a practice round just so that they all get a feel of what they're doing and how the game actually operates.
9. OK, so at the end of this round, Naya Bulber would have been in the lead. Yes? But it's only a practice run, OK?
If I've got one group that I know will struggle with the finance, I will just put their details on the board and I will use their groups as the example. But I will go through the first set of calculations with the class.
And your sales revenue is the number of sales, the number I bought, times your price. In this case, 5 times 4,000, sales revenue of 20,000.
But as soon as I think they're able to actually just do the calculations without my help, I will let them get on with it. But I will always, at the end of each month, actually do my own calculations for each group, just to make sure that the maths is correct. There is a tendency sometimes to add a few noughts where, you know, they shouldn't be.
You've got 2 decisions to make. First of all, you've got to decide how many crates you're going to make. Second thing you've got to decide is the price. Now, for the price, you can charge anything between £1,000 and £10,000.
It's all about exploring the reasons why firms charge different prices, what the impact is on the profit, and sharing that with your peers. And each person will come up with different ideas. It's a very accessible simulation from that point of view. And there are very few children that can't get into this and can't get motivated by it.
I don't think we should do the same. We should do 5 and 8. I know, 3 and 8.
I was thinking of charging more.
Couldn't we do like 10 at 3? Try and get away with it.
It's interesting that so many of them have got an opinion,
Yes.
you know, about what price they ought to charge and how many they ought to produce. That there's the opportunity for all of the pupils to contribute to that discussion.
Yeah. And they're competing with each other, which also motivates them.
Think what happened last time, because that might influence your decision this time.
What are you doing?
She doesn't actually push them too hard into a certain strategy.
She's dropping some clues and some hints in just to try and steer some of them back onto the right way of thinking about this.
I reckon we should do 7 and 5 again, because last time she bought 4 and we made the largest amount, and she could have actually bought 5 if there'd another big group done 7 as well.
They're really trying to work it out between themselves. There's lots of buts, if, and different opinions.
It's looking at what the competitor might do, and it's that. And I think that's the beauty of this game, that it is very simple, but it does put them in the position of a business person actually having to think about the competition and what the competition is likely to do and what the impact of that is going to be on their sales.
HTAFC, they charge 9,000.
There are inevitably 1 or 2 in each group who are very quiet. And for a teacher, it's very difficult to balance that and to ensure that all are having a kind of equal contribution, a real challenge. And you can see that it's not quite happening here.
They are interested in what's going on. It's not as if they've become disengaged. It's just that they're probably shyer and less confident members of the groups.
I wonder if a strategy here might have been for each individual to have been responsible for producing the results for the group to the teacher for each of the different rounds of the Gatto production.
Yeah, gives them all the role and make sure that they're paying attention and they're doing something so they can
absolutely.
Profit is the most important thing in a business, really. If you're there to make money, your profit figure at the end of the day is the most important bit. But you can't work in isolation. You were making decisions about what you thought you ought to do and what you thought was best, but actually your profit was being affected by other people, wasn't it? What your competitors were doing was actually having an impact on what your success was going to be in your business.
The game is good fun, and I want them to understand about how you calculate profit and how you calculate sales revenue, but you can't only look at the financial aspects of running a business. You've got to consider all the other issues as well.
Right, Paul.
That everyone else was like charging either too low or too high, so we decided to go in between, and it paid off.
Right, good. So you'd actually listened to what everybody else had done previous rounds, so you were finding out what your competitors were doing, and then you decided on your price. OK, just to finish with, we're going to have a quick little game. There's going to be a question come up on the board, and all you've got to do is to say true or false.
This is one of the parts where you get a real sense. I was saying before, my concern about the group work, maybe one or two individuals being left out in some of the groups. But here there's an opportunity for a much wider range to contribute and to be involved.
Because she's actually going through the foundation of the lesson and then developing it, isn't she?
Absolutely.
She's asking questions. This came right at the very beginning of the lesson, and she then follows things through. They're learning when they're doing it, but often they don't know what they're learning. And at the end of it, you can actually get them to talk about it.
Right, so you went for the chocolate cake for the winning team. Well done, folks.
It looks so easy and it looks so attractive, and that's very deceptive. And it is something that children will enjoy doing, but the amount of learning they get from them depends very much on how effectively you organise it. I think Jill's group learnt a huge amount because she was able to bring out those things right at the very beginning. She got them in the groups working well, and also at the end, really importantly, she did that good evaluation.
Don't forget, if you'd like to find out more about the cake game, the plans for this lesson and the others in the series it's part of, Jill Wright's step-by-step guide can be found on the Teachers TV website.
I think now for when I get older, I run a business, I'll be a lot more sure about money and getting my profits and like what to charge people, the prices and stuff.
Just do it anyway.
It's quite interesting to do something like that, more interactive than just sitting and watching a board all day.
We were listening to each other and saying what we thought that other teams would be doing. So we did teamwork, and I think it worked out at the end.
For me as a teacher, it really is good fun. I think it's good fun because I know the students enjoy what they're doing, and I know that it's a really effective way to teach these business principles. And I think the more we can use these sorts of activities to enhance our learning, the better, really. Far better than just reading out of a textbook and copying down a definition into your exercise book.